Hi, I'm Nate Adams, sometimes known as Nate the House Whisperer, and I've been being asked to run a load calculation that uses blower door and energy use to true it, and you can get really, really tight on how good that load calculation is. Without knowing the blower door of a house, you're going to be plus or minus 70%. So just as a quick example, we have routinely seen that, say, a 2,000 square foot house in our area, so climate zone 5, we're in Cleveland, if you just play with the blower door, you can be anywhere between 24,000 and 80,000 BTUs. That's way too wide. That's way too many different sizes of equipment that it might be. When you get a blower door, you can be plus or minus 3,000 to 5,000 BTUs, and you true it to blower door and energy use. So I'll show you just how to do that. So we'll log in here. It has been being dumb, so I'm going to type in my password. There we go. And so this is the tool. It's called Energy Design Systems. That's the company that does it. And this particular tool is called Auditor. So you can see Home Auditor down here. So all you need to do, this is really cool. It pulls from Zillow. So I asked for permission from this client. I believe that is it. Let's see if it pulls or if I goofed up the zip code. Yep, that pulled, so that's the square footage of the house. So this is pretty slick. This gives you real-time feedback when you change things. You want to pay attention to the inputs, but load calculations, people think of them as being crazy, crazy sensitive. They're not that bad, but you do want to see what happens. So like this adequate exposure diversity, this is solar load. So see down here, it asks what direction of the house has the most glass. This house is east, is the most glass, but let's change it to south just to see what happens. So watch this line, and it'll change when I do this. So right in the middle of the day, about 2 p.m., you get a pretty high cooling load. So that's something you have to pay attention to. So you can change that. And then as far as glass goes, you can enter in what it is. So and this can be anywhere in the ballpark, and it's going to be fine. The one tricky part of this house is it does have 2 skylights, so I want to make sure I put those in because that will affect load. And as you can see, it's this house right here, so it's pretty well shaded. And let's see, let me zoom in once here so it's easier to see. So I'm just going to guess at 70%. Like this, it doesn't have to be that crazy good. There we go, and we get what the loads are for the house so far. So you can see what it is estimating before I've given it any information at all. So heating load, it's showing peak at 48,000. An operating load at 39. That operating we find is pretty close to reality once you get this trued. The heating load is manual J, which has 3 fudge factors. So it has a fudge factor assuming the equipment won't perform to spec. It has a fudge factor assuming that the ductwork won't perform to spec. And it has a fudge factor on top of that just in case. Now that's for heating. For cooling, it's a lot closer. But for heating, we found that we can discount manual J 30 to 60% when we get into tighter homes and still handle worst case. So don't be too freaked out by man J. If you get a 85,000 man J, don't go to 100, get an 80. Like this 80,000 BTU furnace. That's going to be a better path for that. So anyway, you can see what it's showing in cooling load on this house. So 20,000 operating, oh, it's exactly the same, 20,000. So let's see. Yeah, that's it. It shows you month by month. So this changes as you change things, so you get real-time feedback as to what's going on. Now I need to put in all the information for the house. So year built, that's not quite right. This tool assumes insulation values depending on what decade the house is built. Part of this house was built in like 1880, but it was just completely remodeled 3 years ago, so it's pretty close. Heating fuel is natural gas, so that is correct. Water heater is electric resistance, which is costing her a lot of money. And then you enter in whatever your utility rates are. So it's about 13 cents a kilowatt hour here, and we are about 80 cents per CCF or therm. This we will come back to, so you can adjust heating costs. So pay attention up here. So I know that her house used 800 therms, which is probably about $700 a year, something like that. So if I play with this, and you could just play with this potentially, but if you make any changes to the house, it's not going to be accurate anymore. So we're getting down, see up here, 742 by adjusting that. But I'm going to leave that up here for now. Let's put it back at 0. And so this advanced tab here is what you want to play with. So this is an energy modeling tool. It's a fairly simple one, but it's definitely an energy modeling tool. So you can play with things. So residents, there are 2 people in this house. And so I know that she uses 10,000 kilowatt hours a year, and she has a resistance electric tank. So resistance electric is going to be 3,000 to 5,000 kilowatt hours on its own, plus a little bit of cooling. But I'm going to bet that because she has a lot of incandescent, she is going to be up in the ballpark of 6,000, and I think she'll get down to something like 4,000 because she runs a lot of lights a lot of the time. And if she goes to LED, she's going to save a lot. So we'll switch to that. You can put in set points. So let's change this to 74 on each side. And so if you have a client that wants it at 65, or they keep it at 65 now, the model will take that into account. Outdoor design temp, which it's pulling, but it's more like 87, 88 here. Winter indoor temp, 70 is about right. So I asked the question, where do you keep it? Outdoor temp, this is design temp, is 5. Heating system, so this is actually a really good electrification opportunity, and she has this ancient furnace that you can just push your finger through. It's so rusty. So we're going to change this to a heat pump, and we're going to do a pretty good one. So it'll be about 10 HSPF, and you can call it 18 or 20 SEER depending on how we set it up. But that's that. If you want to change sensible heat ratio, you can. And note that it changed EER automatically there. System efficiency losses, these are kind of wild-ass guesses as far as how that goes. We're not going to make a whole lot of difference here, so I'll assume maybe we make some small difference, so I'm just going to turn these down. I haven't played with this enough to see how much these move things around, but they will move things around. Electric water heater, so this defaulted wrong because that is 100% efficient, but we are going to move it to a heat pump water heater, and the ream that we like using is 355% efficient, so I'll put that in. Windows, I just almost don't care in our climate. If you're down south, this is going to matter more, but up here it just doesn't matter. It'll move your cooling load 2,000-3,000 BTUs. It's not enough to matter. And mechanical ventilation, we are going to add, I'll just put this in. There we are. And here is the money shot. So this house, she did a bunch of work to it already. She spray foamed the second floor of the place, and the walls were dense packed. And I actually happened to totally nail my blower door guess on this one. I guessed 2,800. It was 2,800. But the basement of this place is a train wreck presently. That did not get addressed. So that's basically the project is going to look like fixing the basement and changing the HVAC, because the furnace, I have no idea why that thing's still running. So I'll put in 1,500 as a target blower door because I think we'll have a prayer of getting there. And these are other geeky things that you can change or not change. But one important thing here, you have to click Update Infiltration Values. And so there we are. So this is natural air changes, which I don't really love, but whatever. You can at least put this in and you're good to go. Average ceiling height, 8.5 sounds good enough. So that helps you figure out volume, so you can run a quick quote with this if you want to. That's not how we recommend using this tool. This is for the comfort consult step. This is so you can figure out what your load calculations are, the 3 loads. So you run where the house is now, where it could be with a 30 to 50% reduction in leakage, and then you want to try and figure out how leaky the house would have to be to actually have their current equipment be right sized. So you get an idea of the range where the load calculation could be. So, all right, then wall R value, I'm going to call it 13 for both sides. We're not going to change that. Floor, I don't fully understand this. Hopefully somebody can explain that to me sometime, because we don't run floor insulation in basements. You can change ceiling insulation, so it's mainly bat. It's bat in the back, and then it's spray foam in the front. So I'll tell you what, we'll just leave those the same, because it just doesn't really matter. So currently ceiling R value, we'll call it 30, and maybe we'll do an upgrade as part of this, so we'll change it to 38. It doesn't move a whole lot. Floor over basement, this sounds close enough for government work. Floor over unconditioned space, this is if you have room over a garage or over an unconditioned crawl space, which this house does not have. Slab, doesn't have any slab. Now basement below grade, this one's funky. Only about a quarter of the house has basement. The rest is crawl space, and the crawl space varies. So it figured 983 before for square footage, and that's going to be pretty close. Our value of basement walls, there's nothing there now, but we are going to bump it to about a 15. And because it's crawl, almost all of it is above grade. So I'm going to say that only 30% is below grade. So that is basically how the house is set up. And then now that I've made those changes, now we can go see what the energy use is saying. So we actually drove that up. If memory served, we were about 40,000 before. For operating load, and this operating load seems to be awfully close to reality. It doesn't have a lot of fudge factor in it, but $1,300, that's crazy. That's not what's going on, because she's using 800 therms at 80 cents a therm, plus a little bit of gas meters. So you don't have to be dead on, but it's probably $700 to $800 is what she is spending on natural gas. And that's the only natural gas appliance aside from the stove, which uses almost nothing. So you just start playing with this and get it to where it seems about right. And you notice how this number's coming down. So that's close enough. So there we go, 39,000. And then water heat, this sounds about right. For 2 people, $227 with electric resistance, and that sounds about right too. And the cooling at $115 a year, that might be a little bit high, might not be, so I'll just play with that a little bit. There we go. So we're down to 18,000 cooling, 39,000 heating. So now I've run that. Then at the bottom of all this, now I don't use this. Well, we use this, but I'll show you the next piece. So this is kind of slick. You get an idea. Don't sell on energy savings, but it can be interesting to see what's possible, particularly rural houses, because they usually have really high energy costs compared to city houses, thanks to natural gas. Although with modern heat pumps, you can get really close. So check this out. You can see the different bars here. So this is showing Going to a heat pump in this case is going to increase the cost. See this pink bar? It's going to go up just a little bit. Cooling cost is going to come down a good chunk by switching to better HVAC. And the water heating, this is where a heat pump water heater, like, just, man, tell people about these things. They're an amazing piece of equipment. Look at the blue from here to here, the light blue. Huge difference. And then this is basically her lighting and regular usage, and you can see that the yellow bar gets much smaller too. So this is a huge number. To see something like $400 a year in savings, you're normally going to see $100 to $200. It's not going to be a lot of money. It's something, but it's not a lot. But this gives you kind of a quick idea, and it really helps you understand, and you can move things all over the place and see what happens. So I'll do another video where I play with it. This, I just want to show a quick load calc. All right, so down here you get an idea of what different things make a big difference. So changing from incandescents to LEDs. Now all these numbers are all over the place, so you have to keep in mind all models are wrong, but some are useful. So this just, it helps you understand. Don't guarantee this stuff unless you run a much better model than what I'm doing here. So there's a big chunk of savings in lighting, so hopefully this will help her make the decision to change out all of her incandescents for LEDs. Water heater is going to save her a bunch of money. And insulation, it's not that, $100 a year, whatever. Cooling system saves some. And look, heating, it's saying costs $114 a year more. Now she has a $10 a month meter fee, which would basically offset that. So if we're going to change HVAC, it still makes decent sense. And it's likely that electricity costs are going to go down over time. We're already starting to see it. So we're already dead even with cheap frac gas, give or take 10 or 15%. So as the costs go down on electricity, that's going to be very interesting. So that gives you an idea there, and then you can pull down here and see what's going on. So it lets you put in the cost of an upgrade, and then you can write a work scope. We don't recommend using this part of the tool, but it is here. And you get down to the bottom, you click Get Proposal. Let's see, did it download? It looks like it is going to be dumb. Oh no, it just took a little bit. Okay, so here is what the proposal looks like. That is not going to be helpful. So there's a lot of blah, blah, blah here. But you can check your square footages. This is before and after where things go. Here's kind of the key stuff. So cooling, currently at 18,000. This is operating load, so I'll show you the manual J in a minute, which we don't like, not at all. I do not like it, Sam I am, because we track houses and we know that it's wrong, and not wrong by a little bit, it's usually wrong by a lot. So 18,000 to 15,000 cooling, 39,000 heating, down to 34 by adjusting the air leakage a bit. You see water heat from 227 down to 664 a year, and that lines up with what we're seeing watching these things. And then your electrical usage and so forth. But these are the key numbers: 18,000 to 15,000, 39 to 34. So this is a 3-ton house, easy, and this number is probably still a little on the high side. So, and again, it's the same thing that we were looking at before here. You can put your bid in here if you want. But let's see, down here, here's your loads. So it said 39 and 35 or 34. So these are way higher than that. So this is basically your manual J. We just don't like this. So they're wrong. They're just flat out wrong if you go check and track. Maybe okay if you're in a loose house, but this house is already relatively tight and we're going to get it really tight. So it's just wrong. But anyway, that should give you a really good idea of how easy it is to run a load with this tool. So it took me, what, 15 minutes to talk through it, something along those lines. But if I wasn't talking through it, I can do this in 5. And this is going to give you a load calc that instead of being plus or minus 50,000 BTUs is going to be plus or minus 3,000 or 5,000 BTUs. So you're going to really easily be able to select what size you need. And then it makes it far easier to select which piece of equipment or several pieces of equipment you want to recommend. But until you have a blower door test and true it to the energy usage, your load calc is crap. You are guessing. That is not a scientific wild-ass guess. It is a wild-ass guess. This is not even a scientific wild-ass guess. This is a scientific pretty damn good guess, whatever that works out to be. So anyway, I hope this is helpful. If it is, please comment, ask questions, and create a discussion. And then I will do another video at some point where I play with the numbers so you can see how big of a difference doing that makes. Thanks for watching. I'm Nate the House Whisperer. Have a great day. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and do all of that. Thanks. Bye-bye.